Hey friends, my dandelions. Well, my last video caught some attention. The video about conspiracy theorists. And the whole point of my video was if you happen to be cornered by somebody spouting conspiracy theories, religion, politics, whatever it is, sometimes someone corners you and it's hard to get away. And I had a viewer who was considering distancing herself from a relative who liked to do that. And, my point was try to salvage that relationship while keeping your peace. So my problem with anybody who wants to force their views on someone else, it goes both ways, You want respect for your views, have some respect that somebody else may not agree with it. I must admit the comments that were negative about me were not brutal, pretty respectful. Someone said I'm a boomer in the burbs. I can't help how old I am. That means I've lived a long time and I've learned a lot. I've worked my way up to living in the burbs. I've lived on the other side of the tracks in my day. And I don't have to justify any of that. When you get to be my age, and if you want to, and I am a boomer, that's true. If that offends you, I have a lot of friends who didn't make it to this age. And I know that if life is a box of chocolates, I've got way fewer chocolates left than what I've used already. How do I want to spend those last few chocolates? Do I want to envelop myself in negativity and corruption and the sick things that are going on in this world? Or do I want to choose joy and peace and make what days I have left happy for me? Feel some contentment. I choose the second option. I can't do anything about some of these things that may be going on. And I did acknowledge in the last video that some of the things my son said that seemed crazy at the time have come to pass. It's sickening. I just saw an old clip. I don't know how old it is, but Ellen DeGeneres is not on anymore, and Sandra Bullock was on there and admitted to using facial serum derived from the foreskin of babies from Korea. And that's only one step away from what my son was saying is going on with other youth, fountain of youth stuff, and why we have so many missing children. Y'all, it's horrific. And if it is true, I know there's a special place in hell for those people. I can't do anything about it. And my son is kind of backed off. My point was, don't lose your whole life being buried in that negativity. There's still other things to enjoy in this life. And, I kind of lost my son for about 5 years there. That's all he would talk about. He's come back, found his old sense of humor again. He still explores those ideas. He doesn't beat me over the head with it every time I see him. I don't mind having a conversation. Let's talk about it. But I want to talk about other things too. I don't want to have that be the main focus every single time I see you. I think that when some of you who are critical get to live this part of your life, if you're lucky enough to live as long as I have, I know I'm fortunate. you see things a little differently. And it's certainly your choice to wrap yourself up in politics and conspiracies and things that you really can't do anything about. So why get all worked up about it? So I have about 5 pieces of chocolate left in my box, and I'm going to keep those. I'm going to spend those very wisely. But all of this hullabaloo reminds me of Plato, the allegory of the cave. You know, Plato was a great philosopher, and the allegory of the cave, Plato is hypothesizing, and he says, let's suppose there's a deep cave, and we have people chained by the neck so that they can only see the back wall of the cave. And behind them, there is a great fire. And other people are walking in front of the fire carrying objects, casting shadows onto the wall. So the people who are chained to the wall can only see the shadows passing by. And so they think that the objects are those shadows. And then he said, let's assume that we could release one of the people chained to the wall and let him look around, look behind him, and see the fire and see the people carrying the objects. And then he would know, oh, that wasn't reality. This is reality. And then he said, let's suppose for a moment that we could take him out of the cave where he could see the sunshine and the trees and the world around. And then he would realize, oh, this is the reality. Then he said, it's up to that person to go back and teach the others. But it's going to be hard for them to accept what they hear. It was hard for him, the person who came out of the cave into the sunshine, because it hurt his eyes at first to see the reality. But once he got used to it and looked around, he would not want to go back into the cave. Now, if you think about it even further, there are probably many levels to a cave. How do you know you're out of the cave? The people who were attacking me, how do you know you're the one out of the cave? Maybe I'm the one out of the cave. You see? Different perspectives. And it comes down to how you want to live your life. It's a choice. And if you want to bury yourself in finding all the negative and the horrible things in the world, and there are plenty of those things to find, that is your prerogative. More power to you. I'm sitting over here with my box of chocolates of life, and I've got about 5 pieces left. I'm not going to spend those looking for the negative. I'm going to spend those looking for the positive and finding some joy and some peace. So y'all go have a good day. Thanks for stopping by.